By the way, this is originally plaster here. Came down to the wall and I found the ceramics on this floor, in this room, still in place. They were pre-classic. And I remember sitting right in here in this corner. I was stunned. I just sat back and I just said, this can't be. How is this possible? From a building that should be classic by everybody's description. Keep in mind that by this time, the pre-classic were a bunch of simple folk. They were hunters and gatherers, and by 200 BC, they had a pyramid 8 meters high at Washington. But this was showing tremendous sophistication, showing elaborate walls and air ventilation systems and elaborate architecture and sculpture. Couldn't be possible. We found it right on the floor in this room. And that's when I realized that, I had to understand that process. What was it that got this such a fluorescence in an early period of time? You did great. If you're claustrophobic, you did great in there.
That was incredible.
Yeah, I don't have agoraphobia, but I got a little bit of claustrophobic. I mean, it's not bad, obviously.
Yeah, well, you did great.
Well, if there was,
Getting the photo.
if there was a popular...
Patrocinio and I started in 1979 working here. He's been one of my #1 excavators, he's one of my guards here. And he's also been in charge of it with me in the tunneling. You do all the tunneling on all these buildings. To date, there's 3 big tunnels in the site, and he's been responsible for 2 of them. The other one is another guy's been working on, one of my Guatemalan archaeologists, another tunnel. But it's a little skill to learn how to tunnel because it's quite dangerous. So he and I have been learning how to do this, and been doing it now for decades. So this is all you're seeing is from here to here. And we gotta go through the triad. There's 1, 2, 3 again. Then we go all the way to the top to get to the top. This is where the body pit is. This is where the battle took place.
The ones where you... Okay, yeah. I got that.
And they've got obsidian arrowheads in the bodies. And that's
the smoking gun.
Teotihuacan.
It is, smoking gun. Now, notice the art. We have art all the way up the facade here. We know it's there. But it's been poorly preserved because it's the east facing. All storms come from the east, so it's really hammered. We've exposed this entire face of this building here, but we didn't touch this one. I'm not going to touch this one. Saving this for future scholars, future technology. We're not going to touch it. So we just did this one, and we do the face of this one all the way to the top, and I'm going to leave this all stabilized. And I've got rails up the side right now from here, all the way up to here, so I can start getting all that mud and mortar that has to come up to stabilize this. This is the building we were just on.
So which face is most likely to have the most preserved paintings on it?
Well, the primary face. The primary face. This is this side here. There's no stairways here. You don't see any stairways here, right? No stairways in the back. They're all here.
Yeah, because it's a temple.
Now, the triad. We know that here's Orion, the constellation of Orion. Here, the 3 stars of the belt. Okay, this is where the corn god resurrects from the back of those 3 stars. But we got a clue from modern Maya that there's what we call the celestial hearth. And the celestial hearth is the end star of the belt and the 2 knees of Orion. Altanach, Safe, and Regal.
Oh.
And he has like a little sword hanging down.
Yes, he does. But that little sword is actually this nebula, which is called Nebula M42. And this nebula is the fire of creation. The nebula is actually how it all began. So what we think they're doing is replicating in this triad the symbolic representation of the creation. Pretty sophisticated. We have the site of Shulnal, we have the site of Wakna.
And they're older than Nakba?
Pretty contemporaneous with Nakba.
So that would be 1200 somewhere around?
Yeah, 1000 to 1200 BC.